Hello, everyone. I'm Gerd Leonhard, futurist. We're converging with technology. Technology is everywhere. AI is everywhere. It can understand us. It can speak to us, do things for us that we thought were impossible. Science fiction, in many ways, is becoming science fact. A lot of people are happy about this and very excited. It looks like a present to us when we can translate another language or have ChatGPT do our work. But the reality is also that it could be a bomb. It could be doing away with jobs that we do. It could deauthorize us. It could lead us to be lazy. It could lead us to stop thinking. And so I want to go into the details of what AI could do for the creative industry. I consider myself, of course, to be in the creative business because I do keynotes, I write books, and of course I was a musician and producer, so I very much come from that turf. Now, let's have a look let's see what people are saying about this. I think a very interesting conversation occurred here on the Jon Stewart show. I think it was over a year ago. You can see it on YouTube.
I hate to sound like utopic tech bro here, but the increase in quality of life that AI can deliver is extraordinary.
AI is the most profound technology humanity is working on, more profound than fire or electricity.
How they can help us solve very hard scientific problems that humans are not capable of solving themselves.
Addressing climate change will not be particularly difficult for a system like that.
The potential for AI to help scientists cure, prevent, and manage all diseases in this century.
I completely trust you.
This is obviously the best summary of how you can speak about AI. You know, it's a question of trust. And do we really trust those people? Do we trust those companies? Those are big questions. And especially when it's about artificial intelligence and content and intellectual property, all the debates that have been had about the sources of these generative AI applications and where all that comes from. So big topics here. I think we should keep an open mind and consider all of the possibilities, but also think about some of the things that we really should pay more attention to. So first, of course, science fiction is becoming science fact, not just with artificial intelligence, but also how we see the world and how we use artificial intelligence, for example, in conjunction with virtual reality and augmented reality, like in these kind of really amazing meta glasses.
Listen to music without muting the world around you. Live stream your creations from your POV. Take calls without interrupting your flow.
Again, like I said earlier, it could be heaven or it could be hell, but here's a lesson from the Meta glasses and the Google Glass that are coming, and of course Apple Vision Pro and so on. We're moving from an interface scenario of the old days, which was primarily about code, and then of course about the browser and the graphic interface scenario, and then apps and so on. And now we're moving to the natural user interface. I can speak to computers, I can connect with them through the brain-computer interface. And of course, this whole way of speaking to computers is completely different when we can actually interact as if it was another person. Of course, that's the goal of many new undertakings and entrepreneurial ideas about the future of computing, ambient intelligence, all those discussions about interfaces. Just recently announced, of course, Johnny Ive, and OpenAI teaming up to create such a device that you can just speak to, and that is always there. So it's always recording, it's always listening. Black Mirror is only a few steps away. They're only funded with $5 quadrillion, and let's see what comes out of this. But that seems like a tall order, especially when we think about digital ethics. But we shall see. Most importantly, of course, AI has really evolved from the early days of Will Smith eating spaghetti. That was only about 10 years ago, and now it's a perfect simulation. You can see in that graph here, the statistics show how close AI is already, for example, to face recognition, to learning language, to mathematical equations, to solving the bar exam, and so on and so on. All the curves are only going one way, and that is up and up and up. AI is understanding more of the real world. That may be a bit of an overstatement, but it's understanding a lot more things that we only used to understand.
AGI, artificial general intelligence.
AGI. AGI, whatever you want to call it, super intelligence and AGI. Our goal is to make AGI.
When AGI arrives, I think it's going to change pretty much everything.
The declared goal of many tech companies like Microsoft, Baidu, Alibaba, and of course OpenAI is to create general intelligence, not narrow intelligence, which is translating Google Maps, showing us comments on Gmail and even ChatGPT at this point. The goal is to create an AI that can perform better in most activities that have economic impact than humans and do them faster and cheaper. And where that is going to go to in the content industries, that should really worry us. I propose that we should pursue AI as a tool, but what I call God AI, general intelligence, maybe not. Those are big questions. And I think really what's happening is like in the Industrial Revolution, we had the increase of muscle power, we had engines and cars and eventually airplanes and the railway and all these things. And now we have essentially more brain power. And more brain power should be good, but not if my own brain is going to be meaningless as a result. Brain power, to me, means that my AI would augment what I'm doing. And that is really what we're looking for. That is, of course, what Microsoft Copilot and IBM and Salesforce, Einstein, and so on are proposing, to have an augmentation, a human augmentation, which I think is accurate and would be fantastic if the economic benefits can be distributed, so that we would all partake in the amazing economic benefit of increasing productivity. So what does it mean when we have AI, artificial intelligence, and HI, human intelligence? What will actually happen here? So we're starting with intelligent assistants, IA, which is currently 98% of the applications. So that is intelligent assistants, augmentation, that help us figure stuff out, summarize PDFs, do our research, summarize YouTube videos like Google Notebook LM, which is my favorite tool. And definition of that is really pretty straightforward. IA and AI, it's about computer systems that turn information into knowledge. So information and data, logic, turning that into knowledge. That should be a good thing because computer knowledge is binary. It's based on the past, very useful, very powerful, also already a potential threat to human labor. But the next step, as Sam Altman says from OpenAI, the coming change is to have the phenomenal ability to think, create, understand, and reason. And that's what Sam is pursuing with OpenAI. Think about that. He wants to create digital humans or digital superhumans to think, create, understand, and reason. I don't think that is a very good idea. I think reasoning and helping us to reason, yeah, those are all interesting things, but think about a machine that could reason. But AGI would mean that it could do a majority of all the tasks that involves humans, and cheaper, faster, and better. That would make us utterly superfluous. We could only hope then to be the pets of the AGI so that it will allow us to stick around because we'd be the second most intelligent species. That does not strike me as a great idea. I think we should think further. Really what's happening here is that currently we're looking at what I call the CAVA pyramid. Cognification, making things smart, understanding data better, predicting to some degree what's going to happen. Augmentation, helping me be much faster. Translation, document research, summarizing, getting me to be augmented in a way that already is quite a tall order because our brain is not just logic, but okay, augmentation would be powerful. Virtualization, virtual reality, augmented reality, being able to see things like Tom Cruise, the Minority Report, take out the data, pull it out, analyze, understand it. And then as a last possible part, the automation. I think automation is highly overrated. Automation as such is difficult. We have not succeeded in automating driving or flying the airplane, even though in principle, the car can drive itself. I drove one myself the other day, the Waymo in San Francisco, but it's a far cry from being the new normal. And the airplanes can fly themselves to some degree, but we still have pilots. So I think it's much better to look at what we can get from these machines, cognification, augmentation, virtualization, not so much automation. I think that's very true for the content business. So we can better understand what's happening, we can analyze, we can create better ads, we can do things much quicker and cheaper using AI. Very powerful stuff. Bottom line on this is human ideas and storytelling, imagination, creativity, intuition, all the human-only things, that remains essential. But really what's changing is all the workflows and how we do things, how we distribute them, how we work together, how we come up with ideas, all of the workflows. And that's probably as big of a change as the internet itself. If you look back, the internet really changed everybody's workflow. We became able to communicate remotely, email, messages, search. And now search is completely reinvented. This is what Google is doing at this very moment, reinventing search for the age of AI that creates answers, not search. And all the workflows are being completely transformed. And this is something we have to get used to. So if this can support me being more human, my social, cultural, emotional, kinesthetic intelligence, more power to it. But of course, our pyramid of work is changing. This pyramid of the past, data information was really important, and logic and knowledge and all that stuff. And now we realize that machines are quite good at data information and some sort of basic knowledge, intellectual knowledge, straightforward knowledge, but they're not very good at tacit knowledge, at deeper knowledge, at understanding, at context, at truly understanding the meaning of something, the purpose, the wisdom, and ultimately, of course, the human agency, decision-making, judgment. That should be something that is left to humans, and we should protect that from the encroaching army of intelligent machines. That's going to be super important. I'll have another chapter on that at the end. But basically, we have to move up the pyramid, and we have to think differently about what we're going to be doing, as most of the things that we're doing today really are about cognification, just computers not being stupid anymore, and our processes becoming intelligent, augmenting our powers. And a great example really is Amazon. Amazon is a company that is a king of automation, of course, but last year hired 250,000 people. So it's not the end of work, it's just different work. And that's one thing we have to think about. Will new jobs be created? And I think when things become smart, we can augment ourselves, we can go into virtual relationships with our work, digital twins and those kind of things. That should, by and large, be a good thing. We should not get too hung up on automating things. I think that is a far cry from actually being workable, especially in the content industry. If we look at automation, much of things that we automate, like making videos or so, the quality decreases rapidly, like having automated customer service with chatbots only. Glarner showed us, yes, in principle it works, but people do want other people. And so automation of everything is not such a good idea. It reduces the quality, brings up, of course, the efficiency, which is what many companies want. We should not get too focused on efficiency, and we should not put efficiency over humanity. That will always lead us to the place of becoming a commodity. Our business becoming a commodity, and humans themselves becoming a commodity. Also probably not something that you would really want to pursue. McKinsey has a great study on the skills mix. What we have to do, clearly more technological skills are needed. That's always true, but more social and emotional intelligence. That is the number one thing. Something we have to teach our employees. The people that we hire have to be more emotionally competent, and something we have to teach our kids when they go to school. It's good to be good in tech, but it's really much more powerful to be a good human, to understand other humans. And that means the basic cognitive skills that we have, spreadsheets, computing, and so on. They'll probably be less worthy in the near future, because machines can do that for us. They can be our tools, like we're already seeing through AI agenting. So many things that we used to do, like running spreadsheets or organizing things, can now be done with Salesforce, Einstein, or other things that are basically tools for people who don't program. But let's keep in mind, one machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men. That goes for women as well. It was 1901, Albert Hubbard. No machine can do the work of an extraordinary woman. I think this is crucial to understand. We have to become extraordinary. And this is so true in media and content. Being extraordinary, being honest, being authentic, being real. The word real should flash across your screen here. That is what ultimately matters. Of course, we can eat fake food. We can squish paste into our mouth and get the nutrients from there, or we can have fast food. But real food is still the king. So in advertising, entirely new horizons come up from the sort of CAVA concept, cognification, augmentation, virtualization. That is what you should pursue if you're in the content industry. Hyper-personalized advertising, predicting consumer behavior, automated content creation. But again, if we really care about good content, difficult story, interactive advertising, running ads, scheduling ads, All of that stuff, I think that will bring value if you're looking to sort of shortcut the process and put more efficiency into your operations. So I'll give you some examples of what's happening between AI, artificial intelligence, and HI, human intelligence. Human intelligence being more than just a few things, 8 or 10 different things, kinesthetic, emotional, and so on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering a world where everything we SE hear and even feel can be manufactured with a machine with artificial intelligence.
Well, this is an app called The Script, and they have their own AI avatar, and I haven't really gotten it to work very well. Otherwise, The Script is an amazing tool, so don't get me wrong there. Hey Jen has a pretty amazing avatar, of course, of myself.
We are entering a world where everything we see, hear, and even feel can be manufactured by a machine. A love scene in Paris, AI can generate it. A thriller set in Lisbon with synthetic actors dubbed in 24 languages. AI can do it tonight.
Still a little bit robotic and making weird head movements and stuff, but here's myself in real life, the background and the overlays and stuff generated by AI, but me speaking the real. Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering a world where everything we see, hear, and even feel can be manufactured with a machine, with artificial intelligence. I think it has a completely different meaning in it. It just looks different and it feels different. And AI has this kind of robotic sense of the world, and it's very hard to make that emotionally powerful. The difference is we feel the world with our senses. Computers don't live in the real world. We live in the real world. And so we should not underestimate the meaning of that when we think about content creation and impactful storytelling. We should not resort to sort of machine thinking and think about everything as a 0 and 1. It's not. Humans are driven by emotions, by feelings, by relationships. We should remind ourselves why that is that we are creating content, not to necessarily just sell more stuff, but to create meaning and to make a difference and to be about the truth. And these things are very, very hard for machines to understand. We don't think with the brain, we think with the body. As every therapist and psychoanalyst will tell you, all the things that are inside of us are part of our intelligence, our understanding, the mind-body connection, the embodiment, the things that we believe in. The summary is machines don't think, they don't feel, they don't have hunches, they don't understand, they don't imagine, they certainly don't care. But here's the thing, they're very good at simulating that they can, because they are machines. If you're into gaming, you know what I'm talking about, right? It feels very real. So it's a made-up world. It's a simulated world. And I think if we resort to that world as being the real world, all of us, not just the gamers, then we are in deep trouble. And that is the promise of a world based on AGI, that we can make it work without effort, that we don't have to be human, that we can just enjoy the good things without doing any of the work. I don't think that is a good path forward. I think we need to think about what we want from content creation, because yes, we can do this with artificial intelligence. We can augment ourselves. We can have arms or legs or heads and ears that are augmented and empowered. That is probably already quite a tall order because we become dependent on it, our thinking being done with AI. And that's what's already happening as young people are thinking of ChatGPT as an operating system, not as a search engine, as an answering engine. And then the question is, do we really want to go to a world where artificial intelligence comes in and it fills us up and it creates a new sort of superhuman, a digital human? I tend to think that would probably not result in us remaining human, but becoming digital. You become a commodity, you become a robot, you become a machine. Probably not such a good idea. Too much of a good thing is a very bad thing. Too much technology, too much AI, too much eating, too much drinking, too much smoking. Yeah, we don't outlaw all of those things. We just regulate them with social contracts. We regulate them voluntarily, and we have laws. We have a cocktail of rules and regulations to keep ourselves safe. So it's a very important thing to think about. How far do we want to go with this? Too much of a good thing will indeed be a very bad thing for humanity. Here is what Bill Gates is saying about what's happening with work as artificial intelligence is able to simulate humans more and more, moving towards artificial general intelligence.
So the era we've come to is the vision that computing was expensive and it basically became free. The era that we're just starting is that intelligence is rare. A great doctor, a great teacher. And with AI, over the next decade, that will become free, commonplace. Great medical advice, great tutoring.
Will we still need humans?
Not for most things.
Now, that is a shocking answer, especially from Bill Gates. But he talks about intelligence being rare before, and now machines have intelligence. They can further our intelligence and surpass us very quickly, become super intelligent, at which point we can solve disease, all diseases. We can solve space travel. We can solve everything. But what will that do to us? And I think Bill Gates tends to think that this will lead to new jobs, or maybe the fact that we don't need jobs because computers will do it all for us, should give us pause to think about if we really want to develop this. And if a private company like OpenAI or Microsoft or other should be in charge of this idea of creating a digital human general intelligence. This is the CEO of Google talking about what's happening with Gemini and the agent mode. It's very powerful stuff. I warned you, if you're thinking about dystopia, it will ring all the bells here at once.
Let me show you what we are excited about in the Gemini app. We call it agent mode. Say you want to find an apartment for you and 2 roommates in Austin. You've each got a budget of $1,200 a month. You want a washer dryer or at least a laundromat nearby. Normally, you'd have to spend a lot of time scrolling through endless listings. Using agent mode, the Gemini app goes to work behind the scenes. It finds listings from sites like Zillow that match your criteria and uses Project Mariner when needed to adjust very specific filters. If there's an apartment you want to check out, Gemini uses MCP to access the listings and even schedule a tour on your behalf. And it'll keep browsing for new listings for as long as you need.
This is very interesting. Think about that in the content industry or in advertising. What kind of advertising will you have in this process? Will somebody interject a message while your agent is out there traveling the internet? And will other agents that dish up advertising connect to your agent? Or will somebody buy the entire process? Powerful. Heaven or hell? I think this is where we are going. We're going from this idea of tool AI to AI being a companion. And Zuckerberg calls this, of course, a companion that does all the work for us. But what if it becomes the master? Technology is a really amazing servant, but it would be a terrible master. And how do we prevent it from becoming the master? A lot of people are thinking about that, which way this is going. OpenAI, of course, being the lead. OpenAI is like the Blade Runner company, Blade Runner 1982, the Tyrell Corporation creating the replicants. Very powerful stuff. And here's the bottom line of what the whole discussion about that is about.
Commerce is our goal here at Tyrell. More human than human is our motto.
Commerce is the goal. More human than human is the motto, because that makes a lot of money. Replacing humanity, simulating humanity, outdoing humanity, and in the end, doing away with humanity will make a lot of money. Is it a good idea? Let's see what Sam Altman says.
AGI is basically the equivalent of a median human that you could hire as a coworker. And then they could say, do anything that you'd be happy with a remote coworker doing just behind a computer, which includes learning how to go be a doctor, learning how to go be a very complex.
So AGI is like being a median human, creating a human that can be like your servant, but being digital. And eventually, of course, humanoid robots. I don't think that is the right direction. I think that's overdoing it. I think that will be hard to control. And of course, we have our good friend Zuckerberg. Thank you for being here, Mark, however you got here. He says on content and advertising, he says, what if all the things that you think about when you create content, when you create advertising, when you create media ecosystems, we can do all of that for you because Meta has all the tools. It is a redefinition of the entire category of advertising. That is really what they have in mind. And I think if you're in the advertising industry, you got to think about that. Which way is that going? And here is another great comment from Zuckerberg, who looks, by the way, different.
I think we're going to live in a world where there are going to be hundreds of millions of billions of different AI agents, eventually probably more AI agents than there are people in the world. A lot of what we're focused on is giving every creator and every small business the ability to create AI agents for themselves.
Wow, powerful stuff, great AI agents. Of course, they're going to run the Meta platform, they're going to be controlled by Meta, and you have to be a Meta user to use the agent. That is a fantastic idea. Thank you, Mark, for the refreshing comment. We have a little bit more from him when he talks about what's happening with AI and creating friendships with computers. Let's keep in mind, of course, that social media was created ultimately by Facebook. And what we have right now is that social media is asocial. It is destroying relationships, not building relationships, and ripping us apart, not bringing us together. It's no longer a connection, it's a con. Here's Mark.
The average American has fewer than 3 friends, 3 people they'd consider friends. And the average person has demand for meaningfully more. I think it's 15 friends or something. But the average person wants more connectivity than they have. There's a lot of questions that people ask, okay, is this going to replace in-person connections or real-life connections? And my default is
people want more friends because they're lonely, as you can see in this chart. The greatest decline in happiness since 2012. Switzerland, where I live, is on top of this pile. And even New Zealand, the happy country, the happy Kiwis, not doing so well here. Why is that happening? I think social media is a big part of that. Technology is a big part of that, because technology is now pulling us apart and creating, of course, polarization, as we see in the US. And this is something we need to change. We need to have technology, and that brings people together. The original thought of the internet. Maybe we just have to live in a world like this, Wall-E from Pixar, essentially automating everything. Or it could be something like this, where everything we learn, everything we do is run through a super agent, so we don't have to do anything. No effort to do anything, no work, and ultimately a Blade Runner kind of existence.
What a day. You look lonely.
Yeah, you look lonely, and I can fix this, right? You can fix this because AI can fix our loneliness. You look like a good Joe.
Good job.
Is this what we want to create? Is this what we want for our future? We have to ask that question. It's the science fiction, but it's a great example of creating a future that is put together. And I think in the content industry, we have to look at this and ask, what really matters here? Does it matter to successfully put out stuff as much as possible, like we're already seeing on Netflix? Eventually the actors being AIs and the plot being written by an AI, falling in love with a robot. Okay, let's go back to the idea what that means for the future of work and how we can actually prevent such a dystopian view. We're going to the world of digital labor, and most of the routine will be done by machines. That in itself is a fact, and it's not bad news. If my job is 30% routine, maybe I can do away with 20% and I have some unlocked potential. I can be more productive. I think that is powerful stuff that will change society already a lot, because if your job is 80% routine, yeah, that's 80% less to do. So we're going from this idea of humans doing routines to machines doing routines. And that is not surprising. It's not new, but go back to the invention of industrial agriculture and food systems and so on. And of course, driving, flying, all those things. It used to be 90% of people work in agriculture. Now it's 2%. We're still working, but in different ways. So routines will be done by machines. And for the content industry, that means editing. Not all editing, some editing, resourcing, comparing stuff, due diligence, fact-checking. All these things become more possible when we have the super assistant, of course, always a woman, when you're having AI to generate images. Translate, summarize, research, fact-check, organize, collect, remind me. The donkey work, the commodity work, AI, IA, intelligent assistants can do that. This is a good thing, but it will still lead to a world where it's quite clear that if you work like a robot, if you think like a robot, if you learn like a robot, if you're a student or a professor, a robot will take your job. We have to de-robotize. We have to do the things that machines can't do. And there's plenty of them. And then maybe we have to take the benefit of the productivity that machines bring and stuff that back into the social system so we can create things like free benefits. And we can create a new society that's not so much based on work, like all of us baby boomer generation. Basically, work was the center of life, and that is changing a lot as we go
Thank
here.
you for joining us today. My name is AI Alicia. This is AI Michael, and we're AI News. In a significant development in the tech world,
You think of that as being far out, but this is already happening in South Korea, for example, where Anchor men, women are robots and AI. And this is not that far away. And are you going to watch a show like this? And would you read a Kindle book written by an AI? And you pay $10 to some anonymous corporation for creating 200 million Kindle books about every possible topic. That is also an aberration that we need to think about. Are we going to be willing to pay for things? And are we going to be willing to go beyond automation? A lot of research shows us that for the creative industries, it's mostly about augmentation. 72% is what the World Economic Forum says of the jobs will be augmentable, and many of jobs will be expanded on this. But of course, if your job is 90% routine, that is not augmentable. That's just gone. But the replacement rate, the report says, is around 10%. I think that's overly optimistic. I would think we're looking at 20-30% being replaced, new jobs being created. But then again, computers will learn more, AI will become more intelligent. So ultimately, the question is, what do we do when we only work 5 hours a day? Do we make the same money? Is the content getting better? Is society getting better? Are we using it for human flourishing? Or are we using it for the flourishing of the stock market or for paying dividends to people who never will need another dividend because they already have plenty? In this world, when we're looking at the blocks of work, data, information, knowledge, insight, wisdom, all of those things, telos and purpose, I think it's quite clear the first little piece, artificial intelligence will take care of 90% of that. Data and information, knowledge and insight, I think it's pretty good at that as well. Not as good as we are, but getting better, and will eventually get to be at least 60-70%. The last part is really what we're all about: wisdom, telos, understanding, imagination, intuition, all the things that make us human. Consciousness, human agency, whatever that is, human agency. Can machine become human agents? I think they could, but they probably shouldn't. I think this is really our job in the content industry, is to create telos, to create stories, wisdom, things that are uniquely real, that are not unreal, that are not fake, they're not simulated. We have to look for new scarcities. When everything becomes abundant, what is it that is scarce? And that is the uniqueness of being human. The story, the narrative, something that really grips you. When you look back at all the films you've watched, the TV shows, never mind Black Mirror now, it's the stuff that really rings a bell, that gets the penny to drop. And I think that is a unique human thing. The meaning is different. And a world without meaning is a world without humans. We would like a world where artificial intelligence is giving us a power tool. So you don't have to use a hammer, you could use a nail gun, a power tool, but a nail gun is also dangerous. And we have to have some new rules in this. AI is the power tool, and general intelligence would be the power tool, the power tool, the power tool, like 1,000x. High autonomy, high generality, high intelligence, unlimited potential. I think that is a bad thing to pursue. And we should not leave that to a private company or several private companies. This will be a public agenda. Rewriting humanity. I think we need to stop this, and we need to stop the discussion about the techno-optimism that fuels Silicon Valley by saying that basically all work should be replaceable. There's actually a company now called Mechanized.work, suggesting that we can automate pretty much every job all the time and have 100% work-free society. Thank you, Mark Andreessen, for writing this Techno-Optimist Manifesto. You should read it. So now we're looking at the proposal that AI can go beyond human knowledge when we get to the pivot point, general intelligence, and can solve every single problem: water, food, electricity, cancer, other diseases. Mustafa Suleyman, who now runs Microsoft's AI, he says this.
The economics of information are about to radically change because we're going to reduce the cost of production of knowledge to zero marginal cost. And this is just a very difficult thing for people to intuit. But in 15 or 20 years' time, we will be producing new scientific, cultural knowledge at almost zero margin.
Now, Mustafa is a good guy, but the production of knowledge, reduce that to zero marginal cost. What is knowledge? Does knowledge require a body? Does it require human agency, consciousness, spirituality? What is their magic sauce? I don't think that humans have a magic sauce in the sense of being imbued by God or something. But there's something here that goes beyond the logic of computing, and we should keep it that way. And it goes beyond the logic of creating content that is done by a machine. It's meaningless. Right? It can simulate meaning, of course, as we constantly see on TikTok and YouTube shorts. But what does it actually mean? Let's go a little bit further. And when I was in Silicon Valley just a few weeks ago, I saw this bulletin board, "Stop hiring humans," a company called Artisan. And they're serious about this. That idea is everywhere. Klarna said they're going to save money, reduce overhead and workforce by 40%. Duolingo says they're going to build AI language lessons. And many companies, including, of course, UPS, say they can do all of that work without humans. But then again, we have pushback. Many companies saying, okay, that seems to be backfiring. And many companies regret this idea because they start looking like a commodity, and people are not happy about that being the sort of principle of a company. So bottom line of this, show me the incentive, I'll show you the result. If the incentive is to maximize financial benefit, to maximize the stock market, to maximize the value of corporations, the 1P society, the profit society, then of course, this is what we're going to be doing, and we're going to end up here with useless humans. If we can enlarge the benefit idea, or if we can enlarge from 1P to the 5 Ps, as I call it, people, planet, purpose, prosperity, peace, right? If we can enlarge that, then I think we can get somewhere else. We can get to a place where technology will be a benefit to everyone. Also, pure intelligence is extremely dangerous. We've had people that were very intelligent, didn't care about anything else, and we got wars and disaster from it, the biggest upheaval in human history. We should also think about placing unfeeling, unembodied, and uncaring machines on top of human intelligence. That strikes me as creating an existential crisis, where we have this giant intelligence that we think we run, but in the end we pray to it, and it takes over society based on what it can do.
Here's the real threat. It's not that machines will tell better stories. It's that we'll get used to stories that don't mean anything at all.
Yeah, thank you, Avatar. This is the Gerd avatar generated by HeyGen. It's quite useful, as you can see, but yeah, we get used to stuff that is fake, and we accept it. And we get used to fake search, to a fake partner, a fake world. Welcome, Blade Runner. So this is the kind of reductionism that reduces us to data input machine, and the AI as running our lives, and ChatGPT as being a human. Let's not forget what it really is. It's an engine, a probability engine, a large language model, and new AI will be better and faster, but it's still a logic box of cables and connectors. And that will change. We're going to get super intelligent in some way or the other, but still, intelligence is not the same as consciousness. We need to do to make our future work in the content industry, film, television, and advertising. First, we should consider Amaras Law. We tend to overestimate the impact of new tech like AI. AI is really a science, not a technology. But in the short term, we overestimate and underestimate in the long term. That's true about self-driving cars, about cultured meat. Now, I think AGI, the potential of general intelligence, is probably realizable by 2030. That is a short time frame. So let's take the time that we have to get ready and to think about where we're going to go with this, and think about how we can protect humanity in the age of general intelligence, how we can use this intelligence. But we're going to need more rules and social contracts around this. And we're going to need to figure out if we're going to spend more money on public media as a result. We're going to need more courage, more authenticity, not fake worlding. We need more humanness. We need to put the human inside. Keep the human in the loop. Hitler, right? That has been said many times. That is the key to our creative future. Keep the human in the loop. Protect us to figure out what is real and how do we know it's real. I think we need an artificial general intelligence agency. The UN has asked for this as well. I think this would be a great idea to protect us from the side effects. Just like the oil and gas industry had minor side effects of climate change, we need to make sure that AI is used for the right thing, that it creates human flourishing. So I think in many ways, we may need something like a human resistance when we watch a film, when we read a book. We want something real. And it costs money to create something real. It's the real thing. It's not a copy that is 99% cheaper, but meaningless. So I made a summary using AI. See if you like it. The role of the producer is about to evolve radically. You will no longer just make content. You will curate reality from simulation. You will defend human nuance from statistical average. You will be the guardians of emotional depth in an ocean of AI-generated noise. You won't need more tools. You will need more courage. Those who lean into emotional truth, cultural roots, and ethical technology will not only survive, they will lead. Because when the world is drowning in fake, real becomes revolutionary. So here's my challenge to you. In this synthetic era, make it real. Make us cry, make us feel, make us rethink everything. Because AI can do everything, but it can feel nothing. And that's where you come in. You don't just need more tools, you need more courage. That's what it comes down to. You need more creativity, courage to be human. The courage to go against the stream of cheap stuff that is generated by some engine. Let me summarize, and then we'll do a Q&A session afterwards. And I'm going to live stream this as a YouTube premiere, and then we can do a little bit of chatting and talking about this. Like I said in my book 10 years ago, almost 10 years, embrace technology, don't become it. When you become technology, you're a commodity, you become useless, worthless. Our world is not a machine, and machines think like machines. Great stories aren't code. Great content isn't code. It's not generated like code. We have to reject reductionism, this idea of machine thinking, technology obsession, stop buying the stock of those companies that do, and pull their plug and go back to the real world where it's complex to be a human. Those who think like robots and learn like robots are going to be replaced. So we should keep that in mind. We don't want that. We don't want things to be like a machine. We don't want things to be becoming roboticized. We have to go beyond knowledge, beyond routine, beyond logic. AI is a tool, not a friend, not a religion. Tool AI, not the God AI. Let's not make a mistake about this. Be an extraordinary human. Company, organization, country. Be extraordinary, create extraordinary things. Create an extraordinary company that makes extraordinary things. As Buckminster Fuller said, famous futurist, we are to be architects of the future, not its victim. I hope this was helpful. I look forward to discussing the details with you and to see you in the good future. Thank you.